So I asked my staff to find a really good guest on this that's not going to give you the predictable stuff, all right? Because I hate that, and I believe you're bored by it. So we came up with a guy named Mikhail Troitskiy. He teaches at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University outside of Boston, which is a very, very good school. Now, Dr. Troitskiy got his Ph.D. in Russia. He's a Russian national in this country legally, of course. And he taught at the Russian Academy of Science, among other schools, in Moscow. First of all, Doctor, we appreciate your time. Am I making any mistakes with Putin and my analysis today?
Well, actually, I think, Bill, you are quite accurate. And I was even surprised to hear this great analysis regarding banking sanctions. That's exactly what would matter. And I think that's exactly what the Russian government is mostly concerned with. Not so much the secondary sanctions, as they are called, secondary tariffs on whatever India or China sends to the United States. That is going to be difficult to impose. But targeting Russia's remaining participation in the global financial system is, of course, going to be much more conducive to.
Yeah, and I hope Trump does that. He has not done it so far. As I said, I would have done it much earlier. And it's not Monday morning quarterback. We don't fool around here, Doctor. I mean, we know what's going on all over the place. I don't know whether you know, but I spent some time in Beijing in May. I mean, I know what's going on. And the oligarchs who prop Putin up, and that includes the generals of the military, as you know, okay, they're dependent on foreign money. They have all their money in foreign banks. That money's not in Moscow. You slap sanctions and freezes on all of the oligarchs' money, all of the generals' money, and Putin is done. Am I wrong?
Well, I think, generals might not have plenty of money stashed abroad, but you are right that this feeling of situation still being reversible for the oligarch and a large segment, millions of people in Russia who have assets both inside their country and in the West. So they feel it's still reversible, and they see the deal that the Trump administration puts on the table. And if, the situation kind of shifts towards irreversible with these new secondary sanctions and
I don't know if it's irreversible, because Putin at some point is going to make a calculation, just like the mullahs made in Iran, that, look, I better stop or I better do something. But let me ask you this question. There's no really reliable reporting coming out of Russia because they don't allow a free press there, as you know. And if you go against Putin, you might wind up dead, okay? Literally dead, as we saw last week with another, I think it was like 45 former members of Putin's government are dead by suicide. They've fallen out windows. You know what the game is. But the Russian people themselves, all right, we get reports that, they still back Putin. Can that be possible?
Well, the Russian people have largely been brainwashed, and this heavy-handed propaganda has been going on for more than a decade now, and it became especially violent in the run-up to the war. So, and then you are right that there's no accurate sociological data you can get out of Russia these days. But as we have seen over the past 3.5 years of the war, counting on the Russian society to stand up against the war, maybe not even against Putin, but just to become mildly critical about the war and do it openly, that hasn't materialized. So
yeah, but I wonder why. I mean, I remember the Vietnam War days. I was around, and you had all of these Americans, 55,000 of them, coming down dead, all right, and a lot of them coming home wounded. And the American public saw that in their towns, and they go, "What are we doing over there?" All right, Russian people have the same. You're losing sons and your friends and husbands and brothers, and Do they don't care about that?
Well, the short answer would be that the Russians are being paid to remain quiescent, and they are being promised a way of life that would largely leave them immune to the war, a major war that is
Give me an
being
example.
prosecuted.
Give me an example of what they're being promised. Because Russians don't live very well. I mean, come on, and they're not America over there. They don't have any money, and they're not living large. What are they being promised?
No, but over the Putin years, the standards of living in Russia and in particular in large cities like Moscow have risen dramatically. So the
And that's because
balance.
of oil. Is that 'cause of the oil sales?
Yeah, well, largely oil money, but making economy more efficient, borrowing some Western technology, getting some investment from the West, including the United States, the stock market, and there's ways to raise money for Russian corporations, or at least they used to be such ways, and they are no longer in existence after 2022.
All
So
right,
the
that makes sense. Final question. Do you think President Trump's doing anything wrong here? I mean, obviously, he made a mistake because he did believe he could reason with Putin, and that has not come out to be true. Is the president making any other mistakes in this conflict?
Well, I think from the perspective of ending the war, he is making a very reasonable evolution. And what I also liked about him is that he seems not to be deterred or impressed by any, nuclear brinkmanship and nuclear blackmail by some Russian figures. So he immediately calls them out on that brinkmanship, and that was something that I think the previous administration was cautious not to push the envelope too far because of that.
Yeah.
So now the Kremlin knows there's limits as to how heavily that they can try to blackmail Trump. Otherwise, he's making progress in his thinking about Russia, and that he invokes his conversations with Melania, who apparently tells him, look, what Putin is doing after you've just talked with him, that makes the whole thing very personal to him. So I would expect more of that evolution in the coming
Yeah, and
weeks.
Mr. Trump could lean on China a little bit, and I hope that happens. Hey, Professor, we really appreciate it. Thanks very much for helping us out tonight. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on X. Look for @Bill O'Reilly.